or anything.
Welcome to the Spooky Guys, where chilling tales and eerie discussions come to life. I'm Kellen, alongside my co-host.
Hola, buenas tardes. Representative Latinos Against Spooky Shit, Jonathan here.
And today we're going to take a deep dive into the mind of one of America's most notorious serial killers, Ed Kemper.
George Bush? Oh.
Or the co-ed killer, as he's also known as.
Co-head or co-ed?
Co-ed.
Oh.
Yeah, like college co-ed.
Sure. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, got you.
Well, I'm not an expert. I'm not an authority. I'm someone who has been a murderer for almost 20 years.
Can you say how many people might be doing crimes like you were doing?
It would be a guess, but it's not. It's far more than 35. It isn't that impossible in this society. It happens.
Are there more people?
They didn't give up.
How many?
She didn't give up. I did. I came in out of the cold. And what I'm saying is there are some people who prefer it in the cold.
Good people see.
A nice guy.
Did you like Kemper?
I like Kemper.
You were able to appear.
So Ed, you've heard of Ed Kemper? At least heard the name?
I know of the name, but as
Yeah.
far as like the details of his career trajectory, I'm not.
His life choices?
His life choices? Yeah, I'm not keen on him.
Okay. Well, yeah, we'll get into it today. I got quite a few pages
You
and
got some
notes.
notes? Let's
Let's just dive right in. We got a lot to get through. So Ed Kemper was born on December 18th, 1949 in Burbank, California to Clarnell and Edward Kemper Jr. His childhood was anything but ordinary. Ed was the middle child with two sisters, but he often felt like an outsider in his own family.
Are you a middle child?
I'm a middle child, yeah.
Is that something that you can identify with? And I don't mean that to be funny. I do, but also.
I mean, I guess middle child syndrome's a thing.
Is it really?
Yeah. I know you're what, an only child?
I'm the oldest and the youngest, so yes, I'm middle.
Yeah, it's different. You can
Okay.
ask a lot of middle kids; they'll probably say the same thing. His father was a World War II veteran, and they ended up leaving the family when Ed was pretty young.
Oh,
which
like
was,
abandoning the family
yeah,
altogether?
he just ditched out.
Oh, shit.
And
Is he my dad?
well, I have it later on in the notes, but I'm just gonna get it out of the way now. So, Ed Kemper's father, Ed Jr., he was quoted as stating that Clarnell was scarier than some of the missions he did in the war.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Like he hated her.
So this is again one of those things where abusive parents are a contributing factor
it's
to.
It's definitely a key point in most serial killers that we're going to end up talking about.
Okay. Damn. What was your name? Clarnell?
Clarnell was the mom, yeah.
That's a dope name.
I don't like that name.
You don't like it?
No.
Too many consonants?
I don't know. It just doesn't...
It sounds rough, like Clarnell.
Yeah.
There's a lot of harsh...
It's kind of like one of those names that...
Sorry to any Clarnells in the audience.
Like Clark. It's one of those names you look at a baby and you're like...
Yeah, because like, how do you shorten it on a baby? Like, come here, little Clarky. Like, it just doesn't sound
Clark.
Right.
Or... Like, when I hear that,
I hear
I'm like,
Clark and
okay, you didn't have that as a baby. You evolved into that as an adult.
Yeah. Like, nobody calls a baby Robert. It's Bobby.
Yeah,
or Robbie.
Bill.
Or is Bill? I
Bill,
thought that's
Bill
what...
just being a name that I don't like.
No. Little Bill.
Sorry, Bill, if there's a Bill in the audience.
But okay, so scary mom.
Yeah, so she was a really strict and domineering woman. It had a pretty big impact on Ed's development. She belittled him and instilled fear, and that the way that she treated him was pretty bad. So he felt isolated and neglected from a very young age, and he exhibited very troubling signs of antisocial behavior.
Okay.
His room was in the basement, but it wasn't like a basement how you'd think, because we're in my basement, but it's not how like you'd think like this.
No.
There's a trap door, and I'm just
sorry. Okay.
So there's a trap door, and it was underneath the dinner table. So when it was time to eat, they'd move the dinner table and they'd let him up out of the basement.
They dobbied him?
Yeah, and so he only had two lights down there, and there was the light by the entry.
Sure.
There
The
was a
little
light in his
chain
room.
light. Yeah.
And he was so scared of the dark that he'd turn the light off and he'd sprint to his one side.
I mean, that's anybody though. Fuck that, dude.
Side, yeah.
Anytime I turn the lights off here from downstairs going up.
Yeah. So that was his living situation, and yeah, they all right, Ed, back in the fucking
back
basement.
in the hole.
Yeah,
he puts the lotion on his skin. That's crazy. And was that by choice?
No, it's because his mom hated him.
Fuck! So it wasn't like, hey, we don't have any room. Do you want the basement? It was
his mom hated him because he looked a lot like his dad. He was like a spitting image of his dad, same name and everything, and so she treated him like dog shit. And I could assume it was probably because of that, but I mean,
it's speculative. Yeah.
This isn't a deep dive on Clarnell's
right.
life. She didn't matter. I'm just kidding.
Damn.
So when he'd be down there in the basement, he'd rip the dolls off, or the heads off of his sister's dolls. So he'd like pop them off, and he said there was something euphoric about hearing that popping noise when the head would come off.
Okay, but like I kind of get that.
And he was like, that was when he first noticed that he was aroused by stuff like that.
Oh, it was an arousal thing.
Yeah, like it was exciting.
That's different.
Got him going. So by the age of 10, Ed had developed a fascination with death. He'd kill small animals.
Again, the McDonald's.
Yeah, the McDonald triad. His family had 2 cats. One he buried alive, and he later ended up digging it up and putting it in the closet of his house. The other
Jesus Christ.
Yeah, the other he cut the top of its head off with a machete. Just one swing, just cut its head right off, like the top of its head off.
Like just scalped him?
Yeah, basically. Like skull and all, just killed him instantly.
First of all, sharp machete.
Yeah. Or he just swung it really hard.
Also true. God, poor animals.
But
that's
animals.
The one thing I can never like. Animal abuse. I don't like. They're so innocent. That fucks me up.
And there's a lot of serial killers out there that a lot of the time the animals they were abusing were cats, and it's been speculated that cats signify women.
Oh, femininity.
Yeah. So that probably didn't help it. Because of how much he hated women, because of how poorly his mom treated him.
Sure.
So another quick side note kind of thing. Him and his sisters would play like super weird games. One that I was able to find was
Swallow the Leader?
Gas Chamber.
Oh.
They'd like lock them in a room, like lock each other in a room, and then pretend that they're dying, and the other one, whoever was out, would like be the Nazi, and yeah.
Is that what the fuck? Is that something that he like opened up about?
That was during his FBI interviews.
Okay.
Yeah.
I wasn't sure if that was like something like it.
Because that's one thing about Ed Kemper. There's hours and hours and hours and hours of FBI interviews because he was one of the first to actually talk with the behavioral analysis unit.
Sure.
So
I'm sure you got plenty of that info on that. That's just like I remember just playing pretend that I was in a kitchen making mud pies.
Right.
These guys are over here reenacting the Third Reich. Okay.
So at the age of 14, so that brings us up to what 1953-ish.
I was gonna say, yeah.
So at the age of
mid-50s. At
the age of 14, he ran away to look for his dad, and he ended up finding him in Van Nuys, California. I think that's how you say it.
Van Nuys? Yeah.
His dad had remarried and had other kids. He didn't want Ed staying with them, and Ed was quoted as saying that like his stepmother had told him several times that Ed just being around gave her migraines.
Damn.
So Ed's dad sent him to live with his parents.
So Dad knew the shitty situation at home with Mom.
Yeah, well, because he was scared of Clarnell.
Because he also left for that reason. He's like, dude, fuck, I'm out.
Yeah.
I'm going to go get milk.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
And then ditched
dipped
out and made a whole family. But he idolized his father so much, and he had this relationship and idea built up in his head that him and his dad would have this like perfect life.
He romanticized the get together, yeah.
Yeah, but it was not reality.
No.
So his dad sent him to live with his dad's parents on a 17-acre farm in Norfolk, California.
That's pretty nice.
This is just from what I heard from an interview with his dad. I guess Clarnell called him and let him know like, hey, don't be surprised if Ed ends up killing your parents. Yeah, because she knew about the animal abuse and everything.
Oh, so okay.
Yeah, so, and she...
what, the keeping him in the basement wasn't a sign enough that he was going to be a little messed up?
She called him and was like, hey, he's a fucking weirdo. And she called him a weirdo. That was like her thing.
Oh, that was her word.
Yeah. Called him a weirdo and said, hey, don't be surprised if both his grandparents are dead.
So anyways, how you been? How's the new family?
He got along great with his grandpa. He loved his grandfather.
Okay.
They were very close.
But
his grandma was insanely strict, and he had he really didn't have any nice women in his life.
Okay.
And I feel like with Ed in particular, and I mean with a lot of other serial killers, just a little love.
Sure.
Could have gone a very long way.
Just a simple, hey, doing all right, champ?
Yeah.
You doing okay? Ruffle his hair a little bit.
Lock him in the fucking
Don't
basement.
put it, like, it wasn't even the fact that's like, oh yeah, his bedroom's in the basement. Like, nah, we just put him in the basement.
Yeah. They just stuffed him down there.
Yeah, at least the basement here where we're recording is finished. Like,
yeah,
it's insulated, there's a TV.
Yeah, I'd have to look into how it was.
Do they have any?
I know he had a bed, he had a room. I didn't see any pictures of it, but that'd be cool to look at.
Right? The Kemper house.
So for Christmas, his grandparents bought him a .22 rifle, and he used that to hunt small game.
Okay.
Later on, he ended up getting it taken away because he was shooting animals he wasn't supposed to. So this is from his interview later on. He's quoted as saying, "Can you believe they took the gun from me? They took the gun. They thought I was unsafe." Is
that a direct quote?
That's a direct quote from Ed Kemper. And he has a lot of amazing one-liners. Like,
that's incredible.
Horrible human being.
Yeah.
Funny as fuck. Like, he was talking to the FBI guys, and in one of his interviews, he was talking about one of the people he killed, and the FBI guy interrupted him. He's like, "Whoa, guy, you're gonna ruin the bit." Yeah. See, he had this whole routine built up. So at 15 years old, Ed would commit his first murder.
At 15?
At 15 years old, Ed would commit his first murder.
Oh, I thought, okay.
So we'll get into his first murder. So he's living with his grandparents.
Right. In Van Nuys.
Yeah.
Okay.
No.
Oh, no. Sorry. His dad was
Norfolk.
In Van Nuys.
Yeah. They're in Norfolk. Right. So while she was sitting at the dining room table writing a children's book that she was working on, this is his grandma. Ed shot her in the back of the head with the .22 rifle and stabbed her 3 times and claimed that he wanted it to end quickly. He's quoted later as saying, "I just wanted to know what it would feel like to kill grandma." That was his excuse. That's what he said.
Wow.
Yeah. His grandpa wasn't home at the time. When his grandpa did get home, they had a very brief interaction and they waved at each other. He ended up shooting his grandpa in the back of the head after he turned around and waved at him. He got out of his truck, waved at Ed, turned around to grab something out of his truck, and Ed shot him in the back of the head.
Damn.
He said he always has an excuse for these kind of things, and he said he just didn't want him to find grandma. He didn't want his grandpa to see what he did.
He didn't want to break his heart.
Yeah.
Wow, so sweet of him.
So we shot him in the back of the head. So after this was his
first murder was also a double kill.
Yes, it was a double homicide.
God, and the victims were his grandparents. That's rough.
Yeah, so this is the first time that we're going to talk about him being insanely paranoid. He thought the whole world knew what he did the second it happened. He thought that any minute the cops would show up and he'd get arrested. Few days went by and nothing. So he ended up calling his mom, told her what he did, and then the cops came shortly after and arrested him. He was sent to Atascadero State Hospital for the criminally insane, where he was diagnosed with paranoid schizophrenia.
Okay.
But at that time, I think the paranoid schizophrenia thing was more of a umbrella type thing.
It was the 50s. Mental health wasn't exactly what it is now. So, yeah.
So, side note. So, Green River Killer, right?
Sure.
Kind of dumb. He had a really low IQ. This is the complete opposite. Ed Kemper had a genius level IQ of 145.
Whoa.
Mm-hmm. And he had his personality type, he just wanted people to accept him.
Sure.
So, when he was at Atascadero, he figured out how to work the system, and he just being like insanely nice. He was like model
Sure.
patient or whatever you want to call it when they're there. I can't say prisoner because he's not really in jail or anything.
Modern. What would the word be for it? Patient would be the only
thing. So from 15 to 21 is like.
Oh, he was there for 6 years.
Yeah, he got arrested at 15. He got out at 21. But before we talk about him getting out, he was there with rapists and just a lot of insane individuals. Sure. So this is where he kind of like started honing his craft and learning stuff from them, where he learned like, hey, don't leave witnesses, don't do this, don't do that. He just learned the ins and outs of crime.
Being a fucking freaking bad person?
Yeah. So he showed all of the correct signs of improvement, and after his 5 or 6 years, 5.5, 6 years, he was in there. He was released back into society at the age of 21, and he moved back in with his mother.
Okay.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
But I'm about to blow your mind. 21 years old, he got out as fully grown, 6'9", 280 pounds.
He was 6'9"?
Yep. There's a picture of him standing next to two security officers, and they're like at his armpits.
This man was he was a behemoth.
Mm-hmm. He's quoted as calling himself Old Bummblebutt.
Oh. Hold on. Wait a minute. We're not glancing by this one.
No, that's fine. Yeah, that was just what he decided to call himself. I don't know why.
That's like when you're at school, you're like, I'm going to give myself a cool nickname, like Ace. Or Jackal, and this guy's like, yeah, Bummblebutt. That's what I want them to call me in the news. The Bummblebutt strikes again.
That's crazy. When he got out, he wanted to be a cop, and he ended up being
legitimately a cop.
Yes, he wanted to be a police officer.
Okay.
He was rejected because he was too big to fit in the cars, so he ended up being with the highway. He ended up getting a job with the highway department.
Okay, well, just put him in SWAT. They're big enough in the vans.
Yeah, he's huge guy.
Yeah, 6'9". Good lord. I mean, I'm 6'2", 6'3". I would still have to look up at him. That's wild to me.
Yeah, he's big dude. He wanted to fit in so bad because, like I was telling you, that's his personality. He wants people to like him. He wants to fit in. So he bought a motorcycle, and he was so big that he wrecked it.
Poor thing. Now I'm just feeling bad for the guy.
Yeah, so he bought a second motorcycle, and he wrecked that one as well.
At what point do you go, hey, you know what, this isn't for me?
Yeah, right.
Like,
maybe I'm too big.
Maybe these weren't designed this way.
So with the settlement money from that second crash, he ended up getting the infamous yellow two-door 1969 Ford Galaxy, and that's the car he'd pick up all of his hitchhikers in. Yeah.
Oh, they were Okay.
We'll get into it, but they're mostly...
I had another question about his release, though.
Okay, what's up?
So, he gets released.
Yeah.
And was this like part of his plea, or because he was a juvenile that he did no jail time? They just did the hospital. So it was,
it's just because he was a minor.
God, okay, a minor with 2 notches on his belt, and they're like, let's just put him in a hospital for a little while. See how it goes. That's wild. Okay. So time served. That's nuts.
Yeah, and we'll get into it a little more, but it was like hitchhikers and college students, and most of them were like hitchhiking.
And was this all
students.
in California that he stayed mostly, or did he? Okay.
Yeah.
We'll get into
I'll get into the details.
So he moves back with mom. He's 6'9". How was
pushing 300 pounds?
How did she?
I mean, she didn't really like him anyway.
I imagine, but going from like, hey honey, or sorry, ex honey, our child's gonna murder your parents.
Yeah,
also,
don't
I hope
be
you're doing well.
surprised
See you for Christmas. Bye. And then, hey, your child murdered your parents. Like, how do you come back from that? That's crazy.
Yeah. So living with Clarnell at the time, it was not good. She consistently or constantly berated him. Around this time, she was going through her 3rd divorce.
Sorry, all I can imagine is them finally be like, "What are you gonna do? Murder me?"
So she was going through her 3rd divorce, and she was working as a secretary at the New California University of Santa Cruz.
You go on your third divorce, you've got to start thinking, am I the problem?
Yeah.
Am I the one? Okay, so she's working for the city.
So, no, she works for the California University of Santa Cruz.
Oh, the university. I'm sorry.
Yeah, she's a secretary. And that's when Ed began giving hitchhikers and other students rides. His mom ended up giving him a parking pass so he could get on campus to pick her up from work.
Okay.
But that's how he was kind of honing it, because he, as smart as he was, he used that opportunity to learn how to talk to girls, which she had never really done before.
Sorry, the fact that a genius level IQ was used to riz women up is lethal. I could become a doctor. I could do something with this. Nah, I'm gonna get women. I'm gonna get dates. I'm gonna hold their hand. I'm gonna smooch them.
So he learned to talk to them, how to make them feel safe. He didn't really have any social skills involving women because of his mom just how she treated him. He figured out that acting annoyed was really easy, made it super easy to get people in the car, because they'd ask for a ride and he'd be like, oh, I don't know if I got the time. How far are you going? Like, oh, come on.
Like, you're inconveniencing me.
So then it made them feel like he wasn't trying to pull them in.
Oh, yeah, okay. He was playing playing hard to get.
Yeah, so that made it, and plus they'd see that parking pass and it made them a lot more comfortable and easy to get in. So he'd slowly begin to like deviate from the route and see what he can get away with,
like,
and
how
see
far,
how far he can go before they actually noticed it.
Sure.
And he just wanted to see how they reacted, just to test his boundaries. Eventually, he started carrying a .22 pistol with him, and he ended up picking up picking up hundreds of hitchhikers while he was fine-tuning his skills.
Okay, so he hadn't committed his next murder at this point in time. At this point in time, he's just testing boundaries. He's just trying it out.
Yeah, he's just kind of honing it.
Okay, so pre-Uber.
So on May 7th, 1972, Ed picked up two 18-year-old hitchhikers and decided to put into action what he had been building up to. He was driving around in Berkeley, California, when he picked up Mary Ann Pesci and Anita Marie Luchessa. Marie Luchessa. They believed he would be taking them to Stanford. After about an hour of driving, he managed to reach a secluded wooded area near Alameda, where he was familiar with from working at the highway department. That's where he was planning to rape them, but he, like I said earlier, he learned from the rapist at the hospital that you can't leave witnesses. So he locked Luchessa in the trunk and handcuffed Pesci, and as he was handcuffing her, he brushed her breast with his hand, and he was like, I'm sorry. Yeah, he apologized.
Sorry, that's not funny, but it's in the middle of all this, like, I'm about to kill you. Oh, I'm so sorry that I groped you. That's so rude of me.
Yeah. So he didn't want to touch her breast again, so he stabbed her in the stomach and then strangled her, and he said, I know that probably hurt her a lot more, but I just didn't want to embarrass myself again.
Damn. Okay. All right, Ed Kemper.
Yeah. So Luchessa's still in the trunk after that.
Because there's two of them.
Stabbed her and strangled her.
He decides to go for two of them. Okay.
Stabbed her and strangled her. And he went around and let Luchessa out of the trunk. And she asked what happened because he had blood on his hands. And he said that your friend wasn't listening to me, so I broke her nose. And then he's like, hey, come on, you can check on her because I broke her nose. And then he stabbed her and strangled her. So then he stuffed both bodies in the trunk.
Okay.
He was going to take... Because at this time, he was no longer living with his mom. He was in an apartment.
Okay, no longer in the basement.
Yes.
Moving up in the world.
So he was... Because he was working... He was released into his mother's care, and then after a while working at the highway department, he got his own apartment.
How... And I'm sorry, you might have said it already, and I'm just reeling from all this information. From 21 to now, how old is he? Or is this all within the same year?
So 1972, he is...
30... No.
No. 20...
24?
3.
23, 24? Okay. So
49 to 72 is 23.
Math is hard. Okay.
So
about a year and a half, 2 years.
Yeah.
Post release to hone his craft.
Yeah, because he was released in 70.
Oh, okay, so 2 years before his next.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
So he put both bodies in the trunk to take back to his apartment. He ended up getting pulled over by a police officer for a broken taillight. But the cop didn't suspect anything.
No, they had no probable cause.
Yeah, in an interview later, Ed said he was fully prepared to kill that cop if he had noticed anything. He even offered to open the trunk for him if he wanted to look. But the cop let him go. He said there's nothing wrong, just to get your taillight fixed.
If I pulled over a 6'9" giant from the forest, I'd be like, you know what, whatever. This isn't my problem.
It could have ended rather quickly, and there'd be a real change of events if that had happened.
Yeah, because now you got a missing cop. Now everybody's looking for him. That's the whole thing.
So
crazy.
at the time, he had a roommate with him in his apartment.
Was it a roommate or were they roommates?
He had a roommate.
Oh, okay.
At that time, he had a roommate with him in his apartment. While his roommate was home, he took both the bodies inside, where he took Polaroid pictures of them, had sex with their bodies, and then dismembered them in the bathtub using an axe. How
long was the roommate gone for that you have all this time for activities?
Probably just at work.
Good God.
So Ed kept the heads for a while, like in his room. Yeah, he had a fascination with heads. We'll get into that.
Like were they like in formaldehyde or just free balling?
Just cut the heads off and kept them.
Huh.
So he dismembered the bodies in the bathtub with an axe.
Sure.
Kept the heads. And there was one particular time where he talks about how his downstairs neighbor would hit the ceiling with a broom. And he said one time one of the heads fell and it hit the floor, and the guy started doing that and yelling at him to shut the fuck up. And Ed's like, sorry, dropped my head.
Okay, so he's a comedian. He's got a sick sense of humor on top of everything.
So eventually he bagged up the bodies and disposed them by Lomo Prieta Mountain.
Lomo Prieta, if it's where I think, Lomo Prieta.
Yeah. In California. Before he got rid of the heads, he engaged in iramatio with the heads. Do you know what iramatio is? So fellatio.
I mean, of course I know what iramatio is, but for those that don't in the audience, please tell them.
Fellatio is like a blowjob.
Sure,
girl is giving it to you.
Okay.
Iramatio is like
the ear?
Like a mouth fuck.
Oh.
He skull fucked the heads. And
I could have gone the rest of my life.
Yeah, so iramatio is like forced. Fellatio is a regular blowjob.
Fellatio is an act. Iramatio is a... Okay. Yeah. All right.
So he basically skull fucked them.
Boy, I hate everything about this conversation.
Yep. In August of that year of 72.
Yeah, trigger warning, by the way, folks.
Yeah. Pesci's head was found on the mountain. And after an extensive search... neither of the bodies ever ended up being found.
Oh, they haven't found him?
Mm-mm. But they found Pesci's head.
Sure.
About 4-month break in between then and his next killing.
Okay.
So May 7th, fast forward. On the evening of September 14th, 1972, Ed picked up 15-year-old Korean dance student Aigoku. She had decided to hitchhike to her dance class after she missed the bus. He drove her out to a remote area and pulled a gun on her and said that he was going to kill himself, but he just wanted someone to watch. He got out of the car and walked around to the passenger side, but he locked his keys and his gun in the car with her in it.
All right. Genius level IQ, right?
But he ended up coaxing her and talking her into letting him back in the car, where he immediately choked her until she passed out, and then he raped her and killed her.
Jeez.
He packed her body into the trunk, and he stopped at his favorite bar on the way home, which was the jury room. It's the cop bar. All the cops hung out there. So he'd go in
there. She was still in the
body
trunk.
in the trunk, and he'd just go in there and he'd have some beer with his cop buddies.
I think I remember this part of just what I know a little of him. He evaded detection for so long because he was buddies with cops, wasn't he? Or not buddies, but like they knew.
I wouldn't even say that he lasted very long.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. It might be somebody else that I'm thinking of then.
Yeah, he didn't last very long.
Okay.
But
so it happened.
We'll get into why he did not last very long.
Yeah.
So he packed her body into the trunk. He's at the jury room drinking with his cop friends. Mm-hmm. When he was done drinking at the bar, he went out to his car and opened the trunk in the parking lot of the bar. And he said he was admiring his catch like a fisherman.
So he's in the parking lot and just full display.
Yep.
And nobody saw anything.
No fear, yep. Back at his apartment, he'd have sex with her body and then dismembered and disposed of her body in the same manner as the other two, as Pesci and Lucchesa.
The burp.
Yeah, the burp. It was needed.
Goldberg.
So, January 7th, 1973 is his next killing. At the time, he's back living with his mom. For whatever reason, living at the apartment. It just didn't work out.
Sorry. Oh, yeah? Okay, yeah. Killing people and bringing them home with your roommate. A little inconvenient. I get it.
Yeah. Didn't pan out the way he wanted it to. On the 7th, he was driving around the campus of Cabrillo College, where he picked up 18-year-old student Cynthia Ann Shaw. He drove her to a remote wooded area and shot her in the head with the pistol.
So was it always the same wooded area in...
I don't think so.
Okay, I think just different wooded areas that he'd become familiar with.
Yeah, he'd just get familiar with it from driving all the hitchhikers around.
From that 2 years of... Yeah.
So he stuffed her in the trunk and he drove her back to his mom's house, where he hid her body in the closet. When his mom left for work the next morning, he had sex with her body, removed the bullet from her head, and dismembered her in his mom's bathtub. He kept the head for several days, regularly engaging in iramatio with the head, which I don't think we need to explain that again.
No, for the love of God. That's...
He claimed that he buried her head looking up at his mom's window because I'm not laughing. I'm laughing at the joke, people. I'm not laughing at the fucking dead person.
Yeah.
It's horrible. People dying is horrible. So he claimed that he buried her head looking up at his mom's window because he said his mom always wanted people to look up to her. And he'd also pretend to be in a relationship with the head before and after he buried it. Okay. So he claimed that her head was buried out there. But
did they ever find it?
I don't know about that part.
Okay.
But I'm sure someone will call me out on that. You didn't do your research. How do you know if the head's real? It's just what Ed said, people.
Fake news.
From all of his interviews, that's what he said, and he was a jokester. So.
So, okay. Sick sense of humor.
Horribly sick sense of humor.
Do you think that his humor, for example, I laugh at things because it's an equivalent exchange thing. I need to feel affirmed, so I like to make people feel funny and good, and I get affirmation that I'm worthy and have value. Does he add humor into his whole existence to maybe soften the blow of the crimes that he's committing?
Maybe. I think he just thinks he's a funny fucking guy.
Or at the end of the day, he just really genuinely thinks he's hilarious. Okay.
Yeah, I think he just has a really disgusting sense of humor, and he thinks that it's fucking hilarious.
That's crazy.
So, yeah.
And so you said that he was called the co-ed killer. As of right now, it's been mostly women?
Co-ed, I don't know why he's called the co-ed killer. He didn't kill any guys.
Maybe just because of college.
Yeah, but I think it's just college stuff. So on February 5th, 1973, his mom and him had a very heated discussion.
Oh, no.
Argument, not discussion.
Yeah.
He left her house super angry, and he's quoted as saying, "Mom and I had a real tiff." That's what he called it. He encountered 23-year-old Rosalind Heather Thorpe and 20-year-old Alice Helen Liu on the UCSC campus. According to Ed, Thorpe entered the car first, which reassured Liu that it would be okay to enter the vehicle. Wasting no time, Ed immediately shot them both in the head, killing them instantly, while still on campus.
Just quick scoped them.
Yep, just pulled his pistol out and shot them both in the head. He wrapped their body in blankets while still on campus, and he brought the bodies back to his mom's house, where he beheaded them in his trunk in the part where he was parked.
In the driveway,
outside, yeah. He carried the bodies inside to have sex with them, and then he dismembered their bodies, removed the bullets, and then the next day discarded the bodies, which were found at Eden Canyon a week later. The rest of the body, like the dismembered bodies, was found on Highway 1 in March.
So he wouldn't hide the entire body in one location?
Yeah, so he'd drive around and throw body parts out the window sometimes.
Jesus.
Yeah. But I don't know if it was to avoid evasion or avoid detection or something, but he'd remove the bullets after he shot people.
I mean, that's as much as I hate to give him credit for that, smart.
Yeah.
what, at this point in time, media-wise, has there been a declaration of like, hey, there's a serial killer, watch out? Or like, are they still...
Kind of, but it was, I mean, at the time, it was super common. Hitchhikers go missing all the time.
Don't say that so casually.
I'm just saying, like,
at the time, hitchhikers, they died left and right all the time.
You know? All the time, man. All the fucking time.
I'm the fine. Hey, hey, man. Jeez.
He's just a fucking hitchhiker. It doesn't matter if he's dead.
He ain't got a name. They're not people.
Yeah,
That's messed up. Okay. So at this point in time, they're like, it happens.
Yeah.
They found bodies in the woods, and they're like, it's a Tuesday.
Yeah, and I'm pretty sure they did have some sort of idea that there was.
They had to have had some detectives on the
it was
on the
college
job.
Students and hitchhikers and whatever
Right.
else, but you definitely think so.
And especially because at this point in time, we're in like a 2-year period of just bodies piling up.
Yeah.
Not even the 2-year mark.
Not even a 2 years. Yeah. Not even a year.
Yeah. Oh, that's right.
So, yeah, it's not even a full year.
It's just a cop going, hey, Steven, you think maybe there's a killer out there? Nah, it can't be. These all look like suicides.
Hitchhikers die all the fucking time.
Yeah, geez, it's always... What is it with you and serial killers?
Let's go have a smoke and get some spaghetti.
I love that they're New Yorkers in California.
Yeah. That's how I just picture old police officers.
Yeah, with the blue and the cap.
We'll get into... There's Dean Corll. You know who Dean... Do you know the original Candyman?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so we'll get into that investigation, but like the Houston police during that time, they'd cut quits at work at like 1 p.m. and they go to the bar.
Oh, seriously?
Yeah, so
can't do that anymore. Stupid HR ruins all the fun.
So on
I was in human resources for 10 years.
On April 20th, 1973, after coming home from a party, Clarnell woke Ed up while coming home, and Ed went into her room, and she looked at him and said, I suppose you're going to want to sit up all night and talk now, huh? And Ed looked at her and said, nope, good night.
That seems...
Foreshadow!
Is that what that is? Is that... Okay. Did they used to talk?
No. But she, like, the way she viewed him, she just kind of like, oh, you're... Like, she viewed him as kind of a woman. Oh, you just want to sit up and talk all night, huh?
Oh, okay, so emasculating.
Just being fucking snarky.
Got it.
So later that night, Ed would go into her room while she was sleeping, and using a claw hammer, he bashed her head in and then slit her throat with a knife.
I feel like that's overkill.
Yeah, and he used the claw side of the hammer.
Well, yeah, what other side are you going to use?
I mean, just the regular hammer side.
What are you, a monster? What are you, a killer? Jesus. Everybody knows the claw side.
So he decapitated his mom's head and performed ear ratio.
Yep, there it is again.
Skull fucking.
Sorry.
And then after he was done skull fucking mom's head, he used her head as a dartboard. When he was done using her head as a dartboard, he just screamed at it for over an hour.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay. So
a little
pent-up frustration.
Imagine like 2, 3, 4 in the morning, and you're just in there screaming at a fucking decapitated head.
Of your mom.
Yeah.
I'm sure he had a lot of choice things to say.
He cut her tongue and larynx out.
Her larynx? That's...
Larynx, like her vocal
larynx,
cords, yeah. And he put him in the garbage disposal, and the garbage disposal kept shooting them back up into his face. They couldn't grind up the vocal cords. And to this, Ed said that it seemed appropriate that this... She was a bitch in life, she's a bitch in death, and she bitched and screamed at me all the way through it.
Boy.
After that, he was so frustrated, he went and had sex with her corpse, and then hid it in her closet. Hid it in his closet and went out to get some beers at the jury room. So he's just like, dude, I need to calm down.
Whew, almost lost my cool there.
I almost lost my cool there, guys. That would have been ugly if I would have lost it like that.
Whew. Man, I felt myself getting upset there for a second. Good Lord, what an evening. Okay, so he did end up killing his mom.
Yep, he ended up killing his mom, came to fruition finally. When he
Foreshadow.
When he returned home, he invited his mom's best friend, Sally Hallett, over for dinner and a movie. When she arrived, she immediately sat down on the couch, looked at Ed, and said, "I am so dead. I'm so glad I can sit down." Ed said, "I just smiled at her and thought to myself, you just wait."
Oh, man.
Shortly after she sat down, Ed came up behind her and strangled her to death, and spent the rest of the night doing the same thing to Sally that he did to his mom. Routinely performed Iramatio on her head, had sex with her body, used it as a dartboard, and started yelling at both of them. Ed would later say that while he was strangling Sally, it was the first time that he full-on ejaculated while he was strangling her. So I feel like that was a long time coming, especially for his mom.
Sorry. yeah, there it is. There it is. We love a good wordplay here. God.
So, yeah, it all came to fruition that night, April 20th. He, finally ended up killing his mom. That paranoia that Ed had gotten previously after his first murder when he killed his grandparents.
The paranoia of everybody knows what I did right now.
So he got that sense of paranoia again that everybody knew that he had just killed his his mom.
Mm-hmm.
He left a note for police saying, approximately 5 a.m. Saturday, no need for her to suffer at the hands of a horrible murderous butcher. It was quick and in her sleep, the way I wanted it, not sloppy or incomplete, gents. Just a lack of time. I got things to do.
That's nice he left a note. I mean...
So after he left the note, he drove to Colorado. He didn't hear anything or see anything on the news for a few days, like, because he was paranoid. He thought that
he was like, this is it.
He thought it'd be all over the news, just like all of his previous murders.
Sure.
So he ended up calling the police to turn himself in because of how paranoid he was.
Oh, wow.
And he called the police in the town he was living in with his mom, and he told them, like, hey, I'm the co-ed killer. And they didn't believe him. They were like, oh, Ed, you're drunk. Like, oh, stop it, Ed. They just thought he was joking around.
Like, yeah, we'll see you at the jury room later.
Yeah. We'll see you tonight, buddy. We'll see you tonight. Hey.
They start snapping away.
Yeah. Oh, bye. He ended up calling up to, he said 7 times. So he kept telling him he was the co-ed killer. Like, hey, seriously, I'm the co-ed killer. Eventually, one of the dispatchers decided to take him seriously and sent cops over to his mom's house where they found the note and the bodies.
God, so he wouldn't have gone away with it if it wasn't for his meddling dumbass.
Yeah, without him wanting to turn himself in. So Ed was inevitably arrested.
Sure.
In 1973. So, yeah, not even a year. He didn't last very long.
Wow. That seems like a short window. What was his total body count? It's counting at least 7.
And then the two 18-year-olds.
The Korean.
The 15-year-old Korean. The 2 he got in the argument with his mom.
That's right.
And then
his mom, his friend.
So 9. And we can leave that part in.
Okay.
It's just discussion.
9 heads. 9 heads. Well, 9 heads, but 9 people.
Yeah. He'd like cut the head off and fucking talk to them and shit. So during his trial in 1973 with a 6-man, 6-woman jury, he asked for the death penalty, saying that he should be tortured to death, but he was denied because at the time the death penalty was suspended nationwide.
Oh, was it?
Mm-hmm.
Why?
I don't know.
Yeah.
Couldn't tell you. Ed Kemper ended up being found guilty of first-degree murder, and he was sentenced to 72 years for each count.
Oh, okay. Oh, man, when you said 72 years, I was like, that's it?
No,
but, okay,
72
for
years
each
for
one.
each count.
Okay, so that's almost 700 years.
Yeah, so his sentence ended up just being life without the possibility.
Sure.
Throughout his incarceration, he ended up being a model prisoner, and he...
Was he, though, or was he working the system again?
No, he was a model prisoner. The only time he ever got in trouble was in 2019 when he refused to take a piss test.
Hold up. Wait a minute. 29... Is this motherfucker still alive?
Yeah, he's alive still.
Ed Kemper's still alive?
Yeah. We can write him I might write him a letter. I was thinking about that.
That's the whitest thing you've ever said to me, by the way. I just want you to know.
I wrote Gary Ridgway a letter. He never wrote back.
Motherfucker left me on red. I'm a little upset about it.
Yeah.
Is Gary Ridgway still alive?
Yeah. He's in the
What's
Washington
it like
State
knowing
prison.
that your heroes are just a drive away?
Yeah, alive and well.
Yeah. Jesus.
My heroes.
Your heroes?
So he was a
I'm
model.
Gonna do a happy birthday video for you.
You're with all the baddies.
I'm just
By baddies, I mean Ed Kemper.
Yeah, yeah.
He was a model prisoner, and he often participated in interviews and just sharing his insights into his psyche.
Sure.
Because while he was incarcerated, he took college classes on like psychology and stuff.
So, did he show remorse for what he did?
No.
Oh,
Nope.
Okay.
No remorse.
So no regret, no remorse. It's just like, this is what it was. It's the facts.
Yeah, and if anybody wants to go listen to his interviews, he's very upfront and factual about it.
Sure.
I'm sure some of it's a little Hollywood because that's just how he is. He likes to fuck around.
Yeah.
Like the whole, hey, don't ruin the bit.
Yeah.
Like that shit's just funny.
Like, he's practiced this in the mirror.
Yeah.
Like telling the story.
Right. Yeah, he just fine-tuned it. He was he's actually in the same prison cell block as Charles Manson and Herbert Mullen. And he actually viewed Mullen as his arch nemesis. This is pretty funny because Herbert Mullen killed 13. Well, we might have an episode about him. Maybe a bonus episode.
Yeah.
But he killed 13 people claiming that it was to prevent earth-ending earthquake.
Okay. Yeah, I've heard of this.
Herbert Mullen would he'd sing in his cell and he'd fucking annoy people and he'd be trying to watch TV or something.
Yeah.
So Ed would have a guard or another inmate stand at the same distance away that Herbert was away from the bars because he couldn't see him because they were blocked right next. So he'd take a cup of water and he'd judge the distance and he'd splash him with water every fucking time. But then when he was good, he'd give him peanuts. And he was quoted as being like, yeah, Herbie really likes peanuts.
So he Pavloved this inmate?
He straight up trained this guy.
That's hilarious.
To the point where he'd ask permission to sing and he'd ask for nuts if he was being good.
See, there's that 145 IQ I'm talking about.
He had him trained like a little dog.
His arch nemesis. Just being a grown man and being like, my arch
Well, because Herbert Mullen wasn't a big guy at all, so he was kind of scared of Kemper.
I keep forgetting this motherfucker's 6'9".
Yeah, 6'9".
He's a monster.
So he said the first time he tried to give him peanuts, he saw this little hand come out and then pulled back in. And because Ed Kemper's hands were massive
bear.
So he's like, yeah, I put the peanuts down on the bar, and Herbert took the peanuts, and he's like, you like those peanuts, Herbie? And he's like, yep, I do.
That's nice. That's sweet of him. He's got a little
Other than that's pretty much Ed Kemper. While he was incarcerated, he, like I said, the only time he got in trouble was just recently for refusing to take a piss test, and then
on something. Do we know?
No, he wasn't on anything. He just refused. He just didn't want to. So they have jobs in prison or whatever.
Sure.
His job was to read.
Slave labor, but sure.
He made audiobooks for the blind. So there are audiobooks out there with Ed Kemper.
Voice.
Yeah, and he has a very nice voice. I'll give him that.
Really?
Yeah, his voice it's nice to listen to. It's really weird. So.
Yeah, you like that, don't you?
Yeah, that's Ed Kemper.
Ed Kemper, everybody. That is wild.
Yeah, this is kind of my do-good episode. I know my first one wasn't necessarily the best, but
your first one was great. I just think it was. Listen, for those that don't know, my co-host Kellen, he's not a content creator. He's not in front of a mic often. That was his first time recording really anything.
Yeah, ever.
And so it was the first recording jitters. Whereas you guys know me. I'm performing in front of a camera. I do bits. I do everything. So this is comfy for me. But I think you did great both times. But holy shit.
I'd gotten some feedback that I didn't sound like I knew what I was talking about, and I think someone actually called me a potato.
Did they really?
Yeah.
Oh.
I got messaged on Instagram. Said that if I wasn't such a fucking potato, that the first episode would have been good.
What does that even mean?
I don't know. So
a potato flew around.
I think it's just another word for them calling me stupid or making it sound like I sounded stupid.
I don't think you sound stupid. You're my sweet boy. No, this was super informative. Again, I don't know jack shit about serial killers because, like, I know them by name, maybe.
Yeah.
But as far as like the details of what they've done, I don't know anything.
Well, yeah, and like Gary Ridgway, he was always just like, yeah, I strangled him, whatever.
Yeah.
I don't really remember
Ed
their
Kemper
faces
kind
or
of
anything.
he was a showman.
Yeah, he was, and there's a lot of other serial killers that at least were pretty honest, or they've recollected their thoughts pretty well, but
Right, and just to help give insight for future. Because I think at any point in time we've got a couple serial killers active.
I think the FBI said something like 3 to 7.
That's crazy.
At any given time.
That's crazy that right now there could be.
Well, that town south of us.
That's true.
There's rumored to be a serial killer going on right now. They found just the 4th body in a few months.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah.
Well, have to keep an eye on that. But, well, thank you for enlightening me on this individual, Kellen. I appreciate that. I hate that I learned a new word today.
Yeah. If anyone else hadn't heard about Iramatio, you're welcome. Or not welcome.
Yeah.
Now you're gonna have
sorry,
to
not
think
sorry.
on that.
Yeah. Now you have to know.
You have to know that 6'9" dude that called himself Bummblebutt.
Bummblebutt. Oh my god.
He used to have sex with decapitated
I'm the
heads.
Bummblebutt killer. Ed, stop it.
Oh, Ed.
Oh, Ed. That's just Ed being old Bummblebutt. God. All right. Well, you want to sign us off?
All right, guys. Yeah, thanks again for listening. Stay in touch with us. Message us. Give us feedback. Make sure every Wednesday, pop in, listen to our episodes. They're only going to get better from here, really.
Yeah.
We're going to get our rhythm. We're going to hone our craft.
Well, wait a minute.
We should we should have intro music for these next few.
Yeah, we're working on some intro music. We're working on merch. We're working on bonus content where you guys can support us through Patreon or through whatever other platform we end up using for more material. So keep an eye
make
out
sure to message us any of your spooky tales. If you've encountered ghosts, demons, whatever, say you've met a serial killer.
Yeah, say you escaped from a serial killer. Say you knew somebody who could have been one. Say you stopped a serial killer. Yeah. Whatever you got that's related to what we might be interested in, you can message us at the Spooky Guys podcast at gmail.com.
Yeah, maybe your story or a topic you informed us on. It could end up in a future episode. We'll make sure to do a shout out and a thank you for your participation.
Fun.
All right. Thanks, guys.
Bye.
Bye.
Fuck yourselves.